Syria, a land rich in history, has long been at the crossroads of civilizations. From the earliest settlements of human beings to the rise of powerful empires, this region has been a key player in shaping world history. Today, we'll begin our journey through time to explore the ancient history of Syria, from its earliest beginnings to the rise of the great kingdoms that would dominate the ancient Near East. Syria's strategic location in the Middle East, nestled between Anatolia, Mesopotamia, and Egypt, made it a crucial hub for trade, culture, and military conquest. As we dive into Syria's past, we'll witness the birth of some of the world's most important civilizations, from the Sumerians and Akkadians to the Phoenicians and Arameans. The earliest settlements. Syria's history stretches back tens of thousands of years. The earliest evidence of human presence in the region dates to the Paleolithic period, around 300,000 years ago. Archaeological sites such as Jebel al-Khashab and Qatafa in Syria have provided evidence of early human activity, including stone tools and ancient art. By the Neolithic period, around 10,000 BCE, the region had begun to see the emergence of settled communities. The fertile plains of Syria, especially around the Euphrates and Orontes rivers, offered a perfect environment for early agriculture. People transitioned from a nomadic existence to more permanent settlements. This period is significant because it marks the beginning of what we can call civilization in Syria, as early settlers began cultivating crops like barley and wheat and domesticating animals. One of the most important Neolithic sites in Syria is Tel Abu Huraya, located near the Euphrates River. This site, inhabited from around 11,500 to 800 BCE, provides evidence of one of the earliest known instances of agriculture, with domesticated plants and animals. The people of Tel Abu Huraya are often credited with being among the first to cultivate cereal grains, thus laying the groundwork for the complex societies that would come later. The rise of the city-states. As the agricultural revolution spread, so did the development of larger settlements and the rise of urban centers. By around 3000 BCE, the cities of Syria were beginning to take shape. The Sumerians of Mesopotamia had already established some of the earliest urban civilizations, and their influence began to spread into Syria. This period saw the formation of early city-states, such as Ebla in the northwestern part of the country, which would become one of the most important cultural and economic hubs of the ancient Near East. The Eblaite kingdom, flourishing between 2600 and 2400 BCE, was a powerful state known for its advanced administration and economic prosperity. Ebla controlled a vast territory that included parts of modern-day Syria, Turkey, Lebanon, and Israel. The discovery of the Eblaite tablets in the 1970s was groundbreaking. These clay tablets contained some of the earliest known examples of Semitic writing and provided important insights into the culture, politics, and trade networks of ancient Syria. The Eblaites were skilled traders, and their interactions with neighboring regions helped establish Syria as a significant commercial center in the ancient world. However, the rise of Ebla was not to last. Around 2400 BCE, the city was destroyed, possibly by the Akkadian Empire under Sargon of Akkad, one of the most legendary rulers of ancient Mesopotamia. The destruction of Ebla marked the beginning of a new era of conflict and shifting power dynamics in the region. The Amorites and the rise of the Old Babylonian Empire. In the centuries following the fall of Ebla, new groups began to emerge in the region. The Amorites, a Semitic-speaking people, began to settle in the areas of Syria and Mesopotamia. By around 1900 BCE, the Amorites had become a dominant force in the region, founding several important cities, including Mari, located on the Euphrates River. Mari would rise to prominence under the leadership of its king, Zimri-Lim, who ruled in the early 18th century BCE. Mari's strategic location made it a key player in trade and military affairs, as it connected the powerful civilizations of Mesopotamia with the Mediterranean world. The city of Mari also became known for its impressive palaces, temples, and a vast collection of cuneiform texts that provide valuable information about its society, economy, and politics. Meanwhile, to the southeast, the Babylonian Empire, under the rule of Hammurabi, or in 1792 to 1750 BCE, was growing in power. Hammurabi is best known for his law code, the Code of Hammurabi, one of the oldest and most complete written legal codes in history. This code had a profound influence on the development of legal systems in the ancient world. Although the Babylonians' influence on Syria was often indirect, the region's proximity to Babylon made it an essential part of the trade networks that stretched from Mesopotamia to the Mediterranean. The rise of the Hittites and the Middle Bronze Age. As the ancient Near East entered the Middle Bronze Age, around 1600 BCE, Syria was again caught in the midst of powerful forces vying for control of the region. The Hittites, a warlike people from Anatolia, began to expand southward into Syria. The Hittites, known for their military prowess and advanced chariotry, would go on to become one of the most formidable empires of the ancient world. The Hittite Empire was centered in modern-day Turkey, but its influence extended into Syria, where they took control of key cities like Aleppo and Kadesh. Aleppo, one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, was a major center of trade and culture. The Hittites maintained a complex network of alliances and rivalries with other empires, including Egypt and Babylon. Their expansion into Syria was part of a larger struggle for dominance in the ancient Near East. One of the most famous events in this period is the Battle of Kadesh, 1274 BCE, a dramatic military confrontation between the forces of the Egyptian pharaoh Ramses II and the Hittite king Mu'attali II. The battle took place near the city of Kadesh in modern-day Syria. Though neither side achieved a decisive victory, the battle is notable for being one of the first to be recorded in detail on both sides, with inscriptions from Ramses II's perspective boasting of his triumph, even though it was likely a stalemate. This period also saw the development of the Arameans, a Semitic-speaking people who would play a crucial role in the later history of Syria. The Arameans began to establish themselves in Syria around 1200 BCE, founding several small kingdoms. Over time, they would dominate the region, leading to the spread of the Aramaic language, which would become one of the most widely spoken languages in the ancient Near East. The legacy of ancient Syria. Syria's ancient history is marked by a series of shifts in power, the rise and fall of empires, and the blending of cultures and ideas. From the early agricultural settlements to the powerful city-states of Ebla and Mari, and from the influence of the Hittites to the rise of the Arameans, Syria has been a crossroads for civilizations for millennia. The Phoenicians and the coastal cities. One of the most important civilizations to emerge in Syria was the Phoenicians. This seafaring people, whose cities dotted the Mediterranean coastline, would play a vital role in shaping the ancient world. The Phoenicians are often credited with being among the greatest traders and navigators of the ancient world, and their influence stretched from the shores of Syria to the farthest reaches of the Mediterranean. By around 1500 BCE, the Phoenician cities of Tyre, Sidon, and Byblos had emerged as powerful centers of trade and culture. These cities were known for their shipbuilding, craftsmanship, and most importantly, their development of the alphabet, one of the most significant contributions to writing and communication in human history. The Phoenician alphabet became the foundation for many writing systems in the ancient world, including the Greek and Latin alphabets that are still in use today. Tyre, the most famous of the Phoenician cities, was particularly renowned for its purple dye, which was extracted from local mollusks. This dye became highly prized in the ancient world, and Tyre's wealth and influence grew as it became a center for both manufacturing and trade. The Phoenicians were also known for establishing colonies, with Carthage in North Africa being their most famous and lasting settlement. While the Phoenicians were renowned for their peaceful trading practices, their cities were often caught up in the larger power struggles of the ancient Near East. Their territories were coveted by various empires, including the Egyptians, the Assyrians, and later the Persians. Despite these challenges, the Phoenicians maintained a strong presence in the Mediterranean, and their legacy as traders and innovators remains influential to this day. The Assyrian Empire and the conquest of Syria. As the Phoenicians thrived along the coast, the rise of the Assyrian Empire to the east would dramatically alter the course of Syrian history. The Assyrians, known for their brutal military tactics and sophisticated statecraft, began to expand their influence into Syria around the 9th century BCE. Under kings such as Tiglath-Pileser III, The Assyrians sought to dominate the entire Near East, and Syria was a key region in their expansion. The Assyrians were one of the most powerful empires of the ancient world, and they used their military might to conquer vast territories, including much of Syria. The cities of Damascus and Aleppo, which had once been thriving independent centers, were absorbed into the Assyrian Empire, along with many other smaller Syrian city-states. The Assyrian military was known for its advanced techniques, including siege warfare and the use of iron weapons. Their conquests were often brutal, and they left a trail of destruction in their wake. The Assyrian king Ashurbanipal, Ashur 668 to 627 BCE, is famous for his vast library, which contained thousands of clay tablets detailing the history and culture of the empire. These records provide valuable insights into the Assyrians' interactions with Syria, including their attempts to crush uprisings and maintain control over the region. However, the Assyrian Empire was not invincible. By the 7th century BCE, internal strife and external pressures began to weaken the empire. In 612 BCE, the Assyrians were finally overthrown by a coalition of forces, including the Medes and Babylonians, signaling the end of their dominance in Syria. The rise of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. In the wake of the Assyrian collapse, the Babylonian Empire rose to power once again, under the leadership of Nebuchadnezzar II. The Babylonians sought to reassert their control over the lands of Syria, and they were particularly focused on the strategic city of Damascus, which had been an important political and economic center. Nebuchadnezzar II is most famous for his military campaigns and the construction of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. His military campaigns were brutal but effective, and the Babylonians sought to re-establish their influence over Syria. Under Babylonian rule, the region experienced both prosperity and oppression, as local populations were often forced to pay tribute to the empire. Despite Babylonian control, the culture of Syria remained vibrant. The Phoenician cities along the coast continued their maritime trade, and the Arameans, who had settled in the region earlier, continued to influence the political and cultural landscape of Syria. The Persian Empire and the transformation of Syria. The next great empire to sweep through Syria was the Persian Empire, founded by Cyrus the Great in the mid-6th century BCE. The Persian conquest of the Near East, including Syria, marked the beginning of a new era in the region. The Achaemenid dynasty, under rulers like Cyrus and his successors Darius III and Xerxes I, would dominate much of the ancient world, including Syria. Cyrus the Great's conquest of the Babylonian Empire in 539 BCE marked the beginning of Persian control over Syria. The Persians were generally known for their relatively tolerant rule, allowing local cultures and religions to continue under their governance. This policy of satrapy, or provincial rule, allowed Syria to maintain a degree of autonomy while still being part of the vast Persian Empire. Under the Persians, Syria became a key part of the empire's vast trading network. Cities like Damascus and Aleppo prospered once again, as they were linked to the far-reaching economic and military infrastructure of the Achaemenid Empire. The Persian road system, which included the famous Royal Road, facilitated trade and communication throughout the empire, further integrating Syria into the larger geopolitical structure of the ancient world. However, the Persian Empire's dominance over Syria would not last forever. In the early 4th century BCE, the Persian Empire began to weaken, and the region was once again thrust into the conflict between rising powers. The Hellenistic period, Roman rule, and the rise of Christianity. After the fall of the Persian Empire, Syria would soon find itself at the center of a new wave of conquest, this time at the hands of the legendary Alexander the Great. His conquest would not only bring Syria under Greek control, but would also introduce profound cultural changes that would reverberate throughout the region for centuries. The Hellenistic period, followed by Roman rule, would reshape the political, social, and cultural landscape of Syria, leading to the rise of Christianity and the eventual transformation of the region. The Conquest of Syria by Alexander the Great. In 334 BCE, the young Macedonian king Alexander the Great began his historic campaign to conquer the Persian Empire. After a series of victories, including the decisive Battle of Issus, 333 BCE, and the Siege of Tyre, 322 BCE, Alexander turned his attention to Syria. The Persian Empire, weakened by years of internal strife, was unable to defend its western territories effectively. Alexander's forces swiftly advanced through Syria, capturing key cities such as Damascus and Antioch. Alexander's military genius and the superiority of his army, particularly his cavalry, made him nearly unstoppable. He systematically dismantled the Persian Empire, and by 331 BCE, with the conquest of Babylon, he effectively became the ruler of vast territories stretching from Greece to India. However, Alexander did not just conquer, he sought to integrate Greek culture into the regions he controlled, a policy known as Hellenization. As a result, Greek culture began to spread rapidly through Syria. Cities like Antioch, one of the most important cities of the ancient world, became major cultural and intellectual hubs. Founded by Alexander's general Seleucus Nicator, Antioch became the capital of the Seleucid Empire, one of the Hellenistic kingdoms that emerged following Alexander's death in 323 BCE. The Seleucid Empire ruled over much of the former Persian territory, including Syria, for several centuries. The Hellenistic influence on Syria. The arrival of Greek culture and ideas had a profound impact on Syria. Under the Seleucid rulers, Greek became the dominant language of administration, while Greek art, philosophy, and religion flourished alongside local traditions. The Seleucids built new cities modeled on Greek urban designs, with wide streets, theaters, and marketplaces. They also encouraged the spread of Greek-style education and the founding of libraries, which attracted scholars from all over the Hellenistic world. The city of Antioch became a thriving center of Hellenistic culture and commerce, thanks in large part to its strategic location along trade routes connecting the Mediterranean to the east. It soon became one of the largest cities in the ancient world, with a population of over 500,000 people. The influence of the Seleucid dynasty, however, began to wane over time as internal divisions and external threats, particularly from the Romans, grew stronger. The Roman Empire and Syria. By the 1st century BCE, the once powerful Seleucid Empire had begun to decline. This decline left Syria vulnerable to the rising power of Rome, which had already expanded its influence throughout the Mediterranean and was now looking eastward. The Romans, under the leadership of Pompey, annexed Syria in 64 BCE, turning it into a Roman province. Under Roman rule, Syria experienced significant changes, both politically and culturally. Roman Syria became an integral part of the Roman Empire's eastern provinces. The Roman Empire's control over Syria allowed for a period of relative peace and prosperity known as the Pax Romana. The Roman Empire's extensive infrastructure projects, such as roads, aqueducts, and amphitheaters, transformed Syria, making it an important hub for trade, commerce, and military activity. The city of Antioch, already a major cultural and economic center, grew even more under Roman rule. It became one of the most important cities in the Roman Empire, second only to Rome itself. Antioch was the seat of the Roman governor of Syria, and its population included Greeks, Jews, Syrians, and Romans, all of whom lived in relative harmony, though tensions were often present. Roman Syria also benefited from the construction of new cities and the enhancement of its existing ones. Palmyra, a city in the Syrian desert, became one of the most famous trading centers of the Roman East. Known for its wealth and its striking desert architecture, Palmyra was an important link in the trade routes that stretched from Rome to Persia, India, and beyond. The city also became a semi-independent kingdom under Queen Zenobia in the 3rd century CE, challenging Roman authority before being brought back into the empire. The rise of Christianity in Syria. While Roman rule brought many benefits to Syria, it also marked the beginning of significant religious and cultural changes. Christianity, which had begun in the eastern provinces of the Roman Empire, spread quickly throughout Syria in the 1st and 2nd centuries CE. The early Christian church found fertile ground in the cities of Syria, particularly in Antioch, which would become one of the most important centers of early Christianity. Antioch is especially significant in Christian history, as it is considered by many to be the birthplace of Christianity as a distinct religion. It was in Antioch that the followers of Jesus Christ were first called Christians, Acts 11:26, and it became one of the main hubs for the spread of the gospel. The Apostle Paul began some of his most important missions in the region, and Antioch itself became a vital center for the early Christian community, with bishops and scholars continuing the spread of Christianity throughout the Roman Empire. Syria was also the site of important theological debates and the development of Christian doctrine. The city of Edessa, modern-day Urfa, Turkey, became a major center of Christianity in the early centuries, and it played a role in the development of early Christian thought. By the 4th century CE, Christianity had become the dominant religion of the region, and by the time of the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great, 306–337 CE, the Edict of Milan in 313 CE legalized Christianity throughout the empire. Syria, under Byzantine rule. As the Roman Empire split in the late 4th century CE, Syria became part of the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine period in Syria saw the continued growth of Christianity and the establishment of monasteries, churches, and Christian communities throughout the region. Constantinople, the Byzantine capital, sought to maintain its hold on Syria, and the region remained a significant part of the empire until the rise of Islam in the 7th century CE. The Byzantines also continued the Roman tradition of infrastructure development in Syria, with the construction of roads, fortresses, and other public works. However, by the 6th century CE, the Byzantine Empire began to experience internal and external challenges, including the rise of the Sassanid Empire and later the rapid expansion of Islam. The rise of Islam, the Crusades, Ottoman rule, and the modern era. As we've seen, Syria's history is deeply shaped by the rise and spread of Christianity and its eventual integration into the Byzantine Empire. But in the 7th century CE, Syria would undergo yet another transformation, this time with the arrival of Islam. The spread of Islam would redefine Syria's religious, cultural, and political landscape, eventually leading to the establishment of powerful Islamic empires, such as the Umayyads and Abbasids, and shaping Syria's role in the medieval world. The Crusades, the rise of the Ottoman Empire, and modern developments would continue to influence Syria's trajectory, right through to the 20th century, where the country's modern history has been deeply marked by geopolitical conflict and struggles for national identity. The rise of Islam and the Umayyad Caliphate. The story of Syria's transformation begins in 632 CE, when the Prophet Muhammad passed away, and the Islamic expansion began. Syria was among the first regions to fall under the control of the Rashidun Caliphate, led by the successors of Muhammad. The Battle of Yarmouk in 636 CE, fought near the Yarmouk River, today's border of Syria and Jordan, was a decisive victory for the Arabs over the Byzantine forces, and it marked the beginning of Muslim rule in Syria. With the fall of the Byzantine Empire's influence in the region, the new Islamic Caliphate established its rule over Syria, and soon the Umayyad dynasty, one of the first Muslim dynasties, took control. The Umayyads established their capital in Damascus in 661 CE, a decision that would shape the city's role in world history for centuries. Damascus, once a part of the Byzantine Empire, now became the political heart of the Umayyad Caliphate, which ruled over much of the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of Spain. The Umayyads built magnificent structures, such as the Great Mosque of Damascus, which still stands as one of the most important and iconic examples of early Islamic architecture. Under their rule, Syria became a crucial center of Islamic learning, culture, and trade. The Umayyad dynasty's reign lasted until 750 CE, when they were overthrown by the Abbasids. The Abbasid period and the decline of Syrian power. The Abbasid Caliphate, which succeeded the Umayyads, moved the capital of the empire from Damascus to Baghdad in 750 CE, signaling a shift in the power dynamics of the Muslim world. While Syria was still important, it no longer held the same central status. During the Abbasid period, Syria became part of the wider Islamic world, with various local dynasties ruling the region, often in conflict with one another. By the 10th century, Syria was divided into smaller, more fragmented regions, often under the control of Turkish, Seljuk, or Fatimid rulers. Despite the weakening central authority, cities like Aleppo and Damascus continued to flourish as centers of trade, learning, and culture. It was also during this time that Sufism, a mystical branch of Islam, began to take hold in Syria, with various Sufi orders establishing their presence. The Crusades and Syria's role in the medieval world. In the 11th and 12th centuries, the rise of European Crusades brought another wave of foreign influence to Syria. The Crusaders, primarily from Western Europe, launched a series of military campaigns aimed at recapturing Jerusalem and other sacred sites in the Holy Land. In 1099 CE, the Crusaders succeeded in capturing Jerusalem, and the Kingdom of Jerusalem was established. Syria, especially its coastal cities like Antioch, became a key battleground between the Crusaders and Muslim forces. However, the Crusader presence in Syria was relatively short-lived. In 1187 CE, the Kurdish Muslim general Saladin recaptured Jerusalem and much of the Crusader-held territories, including the city of Antioch. Saladin's victory marked the beginning of a new phase of Islamic dominance in the region, although the Crusader states would linger for several more decades before eventually collapsing. Ottoman rule and the modern era. In the early 16th century, Syria came under the control of the Ottoman Empire, which would rule the region for nearly 400 years. The Ottomans, based in modern-day Turkey, controlled vast territories spanning 3 continents, and Syria became a vital part of their empire. Under Ottoman rule, Syria was divided into several administrative provinces, and cities like Damascus and Aleppo continued to thrive as important cultural, commercial, and religious centers. During the Ottoman era, Syria saw relative stability, but it was also marked by periods of decline and local uprisings. The Ottomans, while generally tolerant of religious diversity, implemented a system of local rule through Ottoman-appointed governors. The region experienced slow economic growth, but its strategic location remained crucial for trade and military operations, especially as European colonial powers began to encroach upon the Ottoman Empire. In the 19th century, the Western powers, particularly France and the United Kingdom, began to exert more influence over Ottoman territories. Syria, as part of the Ottoman Empire, became a focal point of foreign interest. The Suez Canal's construction and the increasing European presence in the Middle East led to tensions between the Ottomans and the West. The decline of the Ottoman Empire in the early 20th century created an opportunity for nationalist movements within Syria. During World War I, the Ottoman Empire sided with the Central Powers, and after their defeat, Syria was divided into French and British mandates under the League of Nations. In 1920, the French took control of Syria, and the region became a French mandate, which would last until Syria's independence in 1946. Syria in the modern world. Syria's post-independence period has been marked by political turmoil, regional conflicts, and the struggle to maintain national sovereignty. After independence, Syria experienced several coups and changes in leadership before the rise of Hafez al-Assad in 1970. Assad's regime would dominate Syrian politics for decades, with his son Bashar al-Assad taking over in 2000. The Assad family's rule has been marked by autocratic leadership, political repression, and close alliances with countries like Russia and Iran. However, the 21st century brought significant challenges to Syria, most notably the outbreak of the Syrian Civil War in 2011. The Civil War, which started as part of the broader Arab Spring protests, escalated into a brutal and ongoing conflict involving numerous internal and external actors. Millions of Syrians have been displaced, and the country's infrastructure has been devastated. The war has also drawn in major international powers, including the United States, Russia, and Turkey, each with its own interests in the region. Despite the ongoing conflict, Syria remains a critical player in Middle Eastern geopolitics, with its future still uncertain. Syria's history is long, rich, and complex. From its ancient roots as a crossroads of civilizations, to its role in the rise of Islam, to its position in the modern Middle East, Syria has shaped the cultural, religious, and political landscape of the region in ways that are still felt today. The country has endured centuries of conquest, empires, and strife. But through it all, its people and culture have persevered. As we look to the future, the question of Syria's recovery and rebuilding remains at the forefront of international efforts. The nation's rich cultural heritage, its historical significance, and its strategic importance make it a country to watch in the coming decades. Syria's story is far from over, and its ongoing journey will continue to have an impact on the broader Middle East and the world. And stay tuned for our next video, where we'll dive into the entire history of Egypt, one of the most influential and captivating civilizations in human history. You won't want to miss it. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the history of Syria. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about the fascinating stories of ancient civilizations and modern nations, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content.